I never really understood the big deal when it came to weddings. But since moving back home to Nigeria 6 years ago and getting married, I soon found out how big a deal it really is. But what happens once the party's over and it's just the two of you? I started to think about this. As much as I've heard about the romance of it all, I've also heard about the stress, the fallouts, fights, and everything in between. Divorced after 6 months, happy being a mistress, the 7-year itch, 8 years dating but no ring in sight. The topics were endless. So I wanted to see what regular people had to say on these topics. I've spoken to single people, married people, and counselors. Maybe if we're all open about our experiences, someone out there may be able to take something good out of this. And I might learn a thing or two myself. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of So You Want to Get Married. So You Want to Get Married is table talk where we talk about anything and everything to do with dating, love, marriage, and relationships in general. Today I'm joined by two fantastic guests. First up, I have got TV presenter, Mr. BollyLomo. Bolly, how you doing?
I'm fine, Dolapo. How are you
doing
today?
Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Got that, baritone going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with today. Just gonna go with the deep
Good
voice.
to see you as
Thank
always.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And last but definitely not least, I am joined by life coach, the catalyst, Mr. Lanre Olusola. Lanre, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you for having me again.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
Always a pleasure. Now, today's topic is, are you in an unhealthy relationship? So to kick things off, before I start throwing out questions, I'm just going to give you a few facts, right? It says that 6 in 10 people have stayed in relationships they don't find fulfilling. And 23% stayed in a relationship despite being lied to. It also says that 95% of reports of domestic violence is reported by women perpetrated against by their male partner. So with 6 in 10 people staying in relationships that they're not really happy with, what do you define as an unhealthy relationship? Let's start with the coach in the house.
Well, so, I mean, you can look at unhealthy relationships from different perspectives. So one is, are you suffering abuse, financial, emotional, psychological, or physical? Or are you unfulfilled in your marriage or relationship? And, unfulfillment comes in different dimensions. Are you sexually unfulfilled? Are you emotionally unfulfilled? Maybe when you go into the relationship, you were younger and you feel like your needs have changed and you want some other things. Is your partner refusing to change? You thought, oh, when I get in there, oh, they will change.
Different story.
Yeah, so they're different definitions. So for whoever it is, whatever your definition is, you've got to just ask yourself, what am I still doing there? What is keeping me in there? And what do I want? A lot of people oftentimes know what they don't want, right? But they don't know what they want.
That's very interesting. Okay, Bolly, what do you think? What do you term as an unhealthy relationship?
I mean, I think you said it all, but, ideally for me, it's, another relationship will be one where you wake up in the morning and you're thinking, I'm going to have to elope. I'm going to have to run away and escape. I cannot do this anymore.
Wow, yeah.
This is too much for my life and my destiny. That probably is another relationship.
No, to be honest, if you're thinking that, I think it's the end.
Yeah, because if you wake up and you look at your husband or your partner's face and you're thinking, I cannot do this. I can't do this anymore. So ideally, I don't know what's causing it to be unhealthy, but at that point where you're starting to think that I can't stand this man again, I must disappear, you're pretty much in an unhealthy situation.
That's the end. That's the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a few things down here, the examples of what can attribute to an unhealthy relationship. And I've got things like being selfish, fighting the same fight. I mean, the obvious ones are like physical abuse, but can being selfish or poor communication or, one partner feeling like they can never do something right, can you term those things as being in an unhealthy relationship? Are they that big?
Okay, at the heart of a lot of these conflicts sit our fundamental core beliefs and our governing values. And those are the things that drive you. Those are the things that you live for. So if you keep getting into conflicts, and it seems like it's the same kind of conflicts that you're getting into, then it's a sense of, a threat to your values or your core beliefs, and that is your identity. So it may seem like, oh, you look at it as trivial, but it goes to the core of your being. 35 years you've lived that way. You've seen things from that perspective. You've made decisions that way. Then you come into a relationship, and then, you know, your values and your core beliefs are not being validated, and you sense a threat of violation. You will keep reacting.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that, you know, for you is that if you end up looking at your partner or your husband or your wife and you're just thinking, I want to run away. But what do you think can be the effects of having those feelings of being in an unhealthy relationship? How do you think, like, so if you were, for example, in an unhealthy relationship, I don't know if you are, but if you were, what sort of way would it affect you?
Ideally, if your mental, you know, state towards your partner isn't positive, and that affects your psychological, general way you think towards your partner, and then it starts to affect how committed you are to the relationship. It starts to affect what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice. It starts to generally, you know, affect the way you see your marriage or your relationship, ideally, because, you know, if you're already thinking, I'm tired, and then he comes home and says, Boo Boo Kitty, let's try something, let's do something, you're not gonna be bothered. You're not gonna be wanting to, like, oh, I have a hair appointment, or my hairdresser, I'm gonna go and do my hair. So, like, you're not willing to try because, you know, you've lived that psychological trauma for years, and at this point you're just tired, and you're like, anything, you know, just send me out, please, I'm ready to go back to my father's house, you know. So it does affect you as a committed partner, I think.
Okay. What do you guys make of this statement? Unhealthy relationships don't only entail obvious physical, obvious damage like physical abuse, stealing, or name calling. It also represents all the internal turmoil that comes from having all life and energy sucked out of you. So, for example, you don't feel anymore, you lose hope, you become depressed. What do you think about that statement?
I mean, invariably, once you see that you're a victim and you keep having that victim mentality, it begins to affect you internally. And then, you know, it starts to depress you, and then you start to shut down. You know, the environment influences you internally, and internally you can influence your environment. So we've got a symbiotic relationship with our environment and the things that happen outside there, and how we interpret those experiences. And that begins to color how we think, how we feel, and how we experience things. So it may shut you down.
Yeah, okay. If you have a friend that comes to you and is telling you things, has been telling you something about his girlfriend for about 6 months, and you know that the guy is in an unhealthy relationship, from like, it's one thing after another, but he cannot identify that he is. Like, so you'll say, oh, but so leave, or, you know, what are you meant to do with that kind of person? Because I feel like everyone knows someone who is in a very unhappy relationship and they're not yet married. So let's forget about married couples. They're not yet married. And you're thinking, I know that if these guys get married, it may be a catastrophe. How do you get somebody else to identify that they're in an unhealthy relationship?
I mean, I think the very first thing is, if you've been there and you're not aware that you are in it, then you're in trouble.
Okay.
It means that your self-esteem, your self-awareness, your self-worth has been completely eroded. So the very first thing that you need to understand is that, you know, whoever it is needs empathy.
Okay.
Then you've got to help them start to rebuild their sense of self-worth. Now, you've got to help them begin to focus and visualize what they really want. Because a lot of times, you know, people stay in there and they keep meditating and focusing on what they don't want. But, you know, because their self-esteem, their self-worth is being destroyed, it is difficult for them to make that decision, especially in situations of emotional and psychological abuse. You know, this person strips you of the entirety of your self-worth, and you don't see yourself existing outside of these people. So it is easy for us on the outside to say, but, you know, as you are within, so you are without. You know, if you are depressed, if you are sad, if you're unhappy from deep within, it paralyzes your ability to make the right decisions and take the right actions. So The first step is empathy. The second is to help them rebuild their self-esteem and get them to start to think, because people shut down when they, experience these emotional and psychological things.
Okay, but how would you get them to build their self-esteem though?
So the very first thing is you begin to tell them who they are. I mean, you've known them for so long. You begin to tell them all the things that, the dreams that both of you have always had. Okay, so you like
pep them up, that kind of thing,
yes,
encouragement.
Yes, you've got to encourage them. Then you're going to encourage them to begin to, with you, start to do the things that they really enjoy doing. Get them into some sports or physical activity, because it'll begin to build up, the feel-good hormones in them. Yeah. And, you begin to together do the things that they like, that you like, that are common to both of you. And gradually, every time that they're with you, they start to feel better. Make sure you're available for them. And gradually, you begin to win them off, that toxic relationship, and be able to get them to make those decisions.
Okay. Well, you guys, thank you very much. That was really, really insightful. And if you guys are watching and you have listened to the comments, or you know anyone that might need this kind of help, make sure you send us a message to soyouwantmarry@gmail.com, or to our social media handles, soyouwantmarry. We'll pass them on to our guests and we will get them to respond to your comments. Okay, so we've run out of time, but of course we have our question of the day, which is usually my favorite part. And of course, the question of the day doesn't necessarily have anything to do with today's topic. So here we go. Today it states, I discovered that my fiance cheated on me with an ex 6 months prior to us getting married. I forgave him despite the painful red flag sign. However, I occasionally find myself bringing up the mistake every time I see him around women who remind me of his ex. He keeps apologizing and trying to make up for his blunder, but I can't help but get angry. He recently shouted at me saying that I keep making him feel guilty about his past, and if I find it difficult to forgive him, we should just get a divorce. Is he in the wrong, or am I? Bolly, what do you think?
Remember the last time I came, I said something about Okafor's law. Remember? I said once the bell is due.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Ideally, the fear of the woman would be that,
he's going to...
he can potentially,
do the same thing again.
Especially when they get married and she cannot run away as easy as normal.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's normal for her to have the fear. But if he's genuinely sorry, I do hope that, she has it in her heart to forgive him and just, try to build the trust again, because that's the most important thing. Yeah. Because if you don't, then it's going to be problematic for your marriage, because if you just maybe Brazilian weave on the shirt, you can just poison his food at the end of the day. So I mean, if she's willing to forgive him like she said she had, then she should be willing to try and rebuild the trust, like maybe not look too deep into everything that he's doing. Obviously, if she sees him with women that look like her ex, it's not really saying that, we are going to the hotel room. Just to, she should be careful, but she should not be too paranoid, because that is going to destroy the trust that they need to have for the marriage. Okay,
well said. Coach, what do you think?
And for me, I think she hasn't healed. I think she hasn't forgiven him. I think she needs to deal with her own issues and insecurities. Now, it's important because she begins to project and drive him to do the things that she doesn't want him to do. Look, a lot of people need to realize that it's not about what you don't want, because oftentimes if you focus on it, you keep attracting what you don't want. It's about focusing on what you want. So she needs to release him and forgive him, because truly it happened a long time ago. And the fact that she keeps on bringing it up, she hasn't really forgiven him.
I mean, she also says, is he in the wrong, or am I? Are there any wrong parties?
She is.
She is?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why, right? So before you married, you caught him. So should you have decided to marry him? No. But at the point where you agreed to marry him, you're starting all over again. So let it go. Just let it go. Look, it is easier to sit and live at the corner of the rooftop than with a contentious woman who keeps on nagging.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that quote before. Crikey. The corner of a rooftop.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they only need heart attack and just die.
Chop no.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful. Wow, all I've got in my head is corner of a rooftop. That's really, really interesting. Well, thank you guys. Bolly, do you have any last words about the topic of today, being in an unhealthy relationships, before we close?
Well, you know, when the coach speaks, I just feel like going to get married and just because he speaks so much grammar. You're just like, so I think he said it all. But ideally, I just hope that, you know, when you're in an unhealthy relationship, you find the strength to either leave or find the strength or the way to just make it better. Because ideally, when you tell your friends that, oh, I think that you should leave, they can think that you want to steal their husband. So is it that you, like he said, help them to grow, or just take them to pastor? And like when 4 pastors touch your head, there's no way. I'm going to deliver it by first.
Amen.
But yeah, that's it really.
Good, Jenny, last words.
You know, before you get into a relationship, you know, sit down and analyze what you really want. What is the perfect relationship for you? Identify the kinds of person that you want. Ask yourself, are you the kind of person that will complement that kind of person?
True.
Before you get into a relationship, sort that out. Then make sure you are ready. Because when you go into a relationship, really and truly, it's going into a union where you are supposed to be selfless, meeting the needs of your partner, and vice versa. So, you know, make sure that you get it right, because your destiny may be shipwrecked if you're in the wrong relationship. Get it right.
There you have it. Your destiny might be shipwrecked. Wow. Think about that. All right, guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure once again. And, you know, I mean, we keep seeing your faces, but I don't mind. Hopefully you come another time soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us again.
All right, we will see you on the next episode of So You Want to Get Married. Take care of yourselves. Bye.